Love them or hate them, critics have the power to make or break a video game, or any product for that matter, and while there are always outlying opinions, average critical scores do provide a fairly reliable understanding of a game's quality. You won't find a great deal of trash among titles rated 90 or above on Metacritic, for instance. Every so often though, something comes along that professional reviewers just don't seem to get, and games that are actually quite a lot of fun will end up with a poor critical reception. Whether it's suboptimal graphics, niche subject matter, or a dull narrative dragging down the ratings of an otherwise great game, a number of titles over the years have been poorly reviewed or otherwise dismissed, only for the brave players who actually purchase them to find that they're really, well, not great, but better than expected, certainly. For this list then, we've trawled through the games often dismissed as bad, and picked out a handful of hidden gems that we think, somewhat unfairly, get a bad rap. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 bad video games that are actually quite good. Number 10. Goat Simulator. Now, I know what you're going to say, but Tiny Peter, a few years ago you couldn't move for the likes of PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye posting Goat Simulator videos left, right and centre. It can't be considered that bad, can it? Well, that is kind of where the problem lies, because although it's highly entertaining to watch compilations of Goat Simulator online, the game itself has been criticised for its limited replayability, owing to the premise extending no further than be a goat, do silly physics, and cause chaos. That said, there is still a lot of fun to be had from being a goat with silly physics causing chaos, especially for fans of running over old ladies in GTA and drowning Sims in a swimming pool. We probably wouldn't recommend spending your hard-earned cash on this title, but if it's available to play for free on your gaming subscription of choice, or if there's a really good sale on, there's no better cure for a frustrating day at the office. Are you going to pour hundreds of hours into Goat Simulator? Well, unless you have a successful career yelling at games on YouTube, no, probably not. But are you going to pick it up every so often just to see how much wanton destruction you can cause? Oh, you bet your goaty arse you will. Number 9. Sea of Thieves. Released back in 2018, intending to give players the full bootylicious experience of being a pirate. I think I used the word bootylicious right there, did I? What players ended up with was the experience of being a pirate with a fairly mundane life, really. Reviewers were particularly critical of the lack of things to do, limited mission variety, and enemies that all felt very similar. Honestly though, party up with a couple of pals and you'll soon forget all of these things, because as monotonous as Sea of Thieves may be on the surface, it's endlessly entertaining to crew your own pirate ship with friends, sail the ocean blue, and plunder to your heart's content. It might be very similar islands and very similar caches of wealth each time, but the second those sea shanties start, you really won't care. Sea of Thieves has been expanded upon since launch, and critics are softening to the title, so only time will tell if this game will ever live up to its full potential. But you know what they say, to err is human, but to R is pirate.
Well, like that.
Number 8. 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand. Aside from the absolute masterpiece that is Get Fit with Mel B,
can we get a PNG of the child in the face? BAM!
Celebrity-endorsed games are, by and large, pretty crap. One game that reinforces such a huge sweeping generalization is 50 Cent's second and, to date, final foray into video gaming, which was found to be a fairly dull affair by most reviewers. Audiences, however, were far more appreciative of the title. Players loved the non-stop action, the hilarious dialogue, and the ridiculous storyline, which one Metacritic user seemingly unironically described as ludicrous. The mistake that critics made with this one was trying to look at it as a semi-serious third-person shooter, as they would have done with the likes of Gears of War or Just Cause. Had they gotten up that morning and instead put their fun eyeballs in, they might have just had a good time. If you're after an original genre-transcending shooter, then 50 50-cent blood on the sand ain't for you, admittedly. But if you're just here to have a wee bit of daft, shooty fun, it's going to be right up your alley. And at least it's better than the other one.
No, we've broken the game.
Yeah.
Number 7. Enter the Matrix. Following the release of the first Matrix film, everything in that series went downhill fairly rapidly, and although Reloaded had its interesting bits, Revolutions was an actual travesty. Enter the Matrix was criticised for its annoying controls, bad graphics, and various bugs and glitches, as well as for not being particularly imaginative as games go. Basically, if you're not a fan of the Wachowskis film series, you're not going to like this, though I suppose you could say that of anything. If you're not a fan of football, you're probably not going to get that much out of playing FIFA for more than half an hour. If you do like the Matrix series though, you're in for quite a treat. Not with FIFA, with Enter the Matrix. The game allows you to live out all of your simulated reality and bullet time fantasies without having to mangle any of your silverware. The plot may be mediocre and the camera controls might be a bit wacky, but when you're kung-fuing your way through countless agents, you'll be having too good of a time to really care about those other things. Number 6. Rogue Warrior.
Ready or not, baby, here I come.
A quick scan of the reviews on Metacritic will reveal that Rogue Warrior really is like Marmite. You either love it or hate it.
End of the line, mother.
Personally, I think all jars of Marmite should be loaded onto a rocket and launched into the sun, but oh boy, if Rogue Warrior came sealed in screw-top glassware, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'd be elbow deep in it. Released in 2009, Rogue Warrior was the first-person shooter title that introduced Ben and I to the legendary Dick Marcinko, or Dick Mychinko, whichever you please, a man whose brief time with us right here at TripleJump Towers left a lasting impression on everyone that he touched. And oh boy, did he touch an awful lot of us. With a less than impressive average review score of 27%, it's fair to say that if you're here for good controls, decent graphics, and a story that will make you think, then Rogue Warrior is not going to be your jam. I should really stop with all of these condiment analogies. If, on the other hand, you're just here for some silly fun with a bit of the old ultra-violence and war crime sprinkled in for extra flavour,
That asshole's still twitching.
Rogue Warrior has got you covered. Oof, Dick Mychinko covered in Marmite, what a lovely thought. Number 5. Earth Defense Force 2025. Considering the state of the world at the moment, nothing would surprise me less than aliens descending upon us and an actual Earth Defense Force needing to be deployed. Another example of a game that critics panned but players loved, Earth Defense Force 2025 was originally released in 2013 and remastered in 2016. Developed by a small Japanese studio, it would seem that the professional reviewers, if you can even call them that anymore, didn't get the memo on this one and reviewed the title as though it had been churned out by the likes of Bethesda or EA. The players, however, appreciated Earth Defense Force for exactly what it was, a slightly campy action romp with swarms of monsters to shoot at in rapid succession, tinged with B-movie charm. Many said that although it wasn't the sort of third-person shooter they were used to, it gave them nostalgic arcade vibes. It was for those reasons that the majority of them fell in love with the title, because if you look past the slightly crusty exoskeleton to the heart at the centre of the beast, you'll find a lot to love. Which, incidentally, is how I describe myself on Tinder. I've not had much luck yet, but maybe an Earth Defense Force fan will swipe right one day. Please? I'm so lonely. Number 4. Jurassic World Evolution. Reckon I can get through this entire entry without making a single dinosaur pun? Oh, you bet Jurass I can. Oh, crap. Awful jokes aside, it's not unfair to say that the vast majority of movie tie-in games are, as Dr. Ian Malcolm once put it, one big pile of shit. Whilst Jurassic World Evolution might not quite be the exception that proves the rule, it's really not bad, especially for those who enjoyed games like SimCity and Zoo Tycoon. With a very nice but not really all that good score of 69 on Metacritic, reviewers accused Jurassic World Evolution of being tedious and unpolished, and heavily implied that only fans of the franchise would be able to glean any kind of enjoyment from it. As with every other entry on this list, however, we have to disagree. Yes, it's going to be a bonus if you already enjoy both park management games and dinosaurs, but we think Jurassic World Evolution handles both of those things well enough on its own, not to mention the fact that the dinosaurs themselves look explosively good. You might even say they are dynamite. Alright, I'll see myself out. Sorry about that. Number 3, Shaq Fu. Aside from the absolute masterpieces that are Get Fit with Mel B and 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, celebrity-endorsed games are, by and large, pretty crap. We've talked about this already, haven't we? Those of you who haven't experienced this title might be asking yourselves exactly what Shaquille O'Neal has to do with Kung Fu. And honestly, we have no idea either, and we'd already heard of this game before this list came along. Initially pitched as a basketball game, which makes significantly more sense, Shaq Fu ended up as a fighting game after Shaq himself proclaimed his love for Mortal Kombat. Although heralded as one of the worst games of all time, we're kind of struggling to understand why. Is it a groundbreaking piece of video game artistry? Well, no, but it's also nowhere near as bad as the likes of E.T. or Superman 64. In fact, it received mixed reviews from critics rather than uniformly negative ones, with some praising its controls and, for the time, excellent digitized graphics. We think the negative reception that Shaq Fu has garnered is wholly unfair. It doesn't bring anything new or innovative to the genre, but it's a competent fighter that fans of, well, Shaq, I suppose, would be fairly pleased with, especially if they're somehow fans of his without also being fans of basketball. A very niche audience, I admit, but I'm sure there's someone out there. Make yourself known in the comments below. Number 2, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. Over the years, there have been a lot of very good Star Wars video games, and a lot more terrible ones. Critics would have you believe that Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 is one of the worst things to happen to the franchise's gaming lineup, with the PC edition garnering a completely pants score of 59 on Metacritic. Now, by and large, the reviewers were not far off with this one, but there is one very important caveat. While the PC, Xbox 360 and PS3 editions of the game were fairly tedious, the Wii version was a bucket load of lightsaber-wielding good times. As well as an altered visual style that we think suited the console quite well, the Wii version of The Force Unleashed 2 employed motion controls, so although you were getting a similarly short experience as your peers on other platforms, with most players able to complete the title in under 5 hours, you at least got to swing your Wiimote around the place like Luke Skywalker after one too many Red Bulls. It's not a groundbreaking game by any stretch of the imagination, and the controller waggling does actually get very repetitive after a while, but it is at least a lot of fun temporarily, which some people wouldn't actually say about the other versions of the game. And number 1, Deadly Premonition. Honestly, could we have picked anything else for the top spot on a list like this? Despite effectively being Twin Peaks the video game, reviewers weren't overly impressed by Deadly Premonition when it was released back in 2010, criticising its controls, sound effects, and visuals as just some of the issues that detract from the overall experience. Players, on the other hand, were able to ignore all of that and enjoy the well-written and interesting narrative, as well as the quirky, humorous characters you meet along the way. What the critics seemed to forget was that Deadly Premonition is not a AAA title, and therefore lacks some of the finesse that we've gotten used to from big developers. Also, it's by far the best looking game on the PS1. Just a shame that it came out for the PS3, but never mind. But who cares what it looks like? It still packs an unforgettable punch in the story and entertainment departments, and you won't often get a chance to play as a protagonist as lovably strange as Francis York Morgan. If you're able to get past the slightly wonky camera and massively outdated graphics, Deadly Premonition is an immersive title with a lot of personality that will stick in your heart and boggle your mind long after you've played it.